Super excited to announce a new partner that I'm working with, Meat Locker Official. They are a meat company. They ship all kinds of meat. Go check out their website, meatlocker.com. It's amazing. Man, let me tell you, the bacon. The bacon's the best bacon I've ever had in my life. All the other meats are very good. I had a nice ribeye the other day, chicken breast, all kinds of stuff. The steaks and the bacon, though, for sure the best bacon I've ever had in my life. Meatlocker.com. Type in the code name Easton 2019. EASTON 2019, and you will receive 15% off of your order. Again, meatlocker.com. Get some bacon. Evo Labs products. Man, I love a couple of Evo Labs products that I like to use. I like to use their skin repair and intensive salve. Man, the skin repair is amazing for when I get like these little abrasions on my skin, and you're always worried about like whether you're going to get an infection or not, or how it's going to heal. Skin repair, Evo Labs skin repair. Go check them out, evolabs.com. And then 2, their intensive salve. Okay. Again, this is for like a little bit of soreness after I train at the end of the day. Rub it all over, like especially like my upper back and my arms, then my legs. Love it. Again, evolabs.com. I do also like their Meditate. It's a CBD pen where, at the end of the night, it helps me calm down, go to sleep, especially after like intense training during the day. So those 3 products are 3 of my favorite products from Evo Labs. 1, the skin repair, 2, the intense salve, and 3, the CBD pen. The Gospel Fire also brought to you by Onnit, ONNIT. Go to their website and man, go check out their products. Code name is Eliot. You put in Eliot, ELIOT, and you will get 10% off all of your Onnit products. I personally like the Alpha Brain. That is my favorite product, and every once in a while I like to use their Shroom Tech as well. So those 2 products are my favorite from Onnit. So again, Evo Labs guys at evolabs.com and Onnit, ONNIT. Check them out. Thanks for the support of the podcast from those guys, and hell yeah, let's get after it. Hey guys, this is former UFC fighter Eliot Marshall, and this is the Gospel of Fire, where we're going to go through the fire to learn how to live the best life possible. Guys, here we are back, another episode of the Gospel of Fire, and I am here with, I barely even know this person, but I've been liking this lately. We've had one meeting and one talk. My friend Larry Dressler put us in touch, and Erica Peng, how are you?
Great, Eliot.
Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we like how did this? I mean, our introduction. We know Larry, and then we know like I call Erin like she's like my god, because she got this all started for me. This whole like book and podcasting and like my brand. So we know Eric, we know Larry, and we know Erin, and that's how we know each other.
That's right.
So we were introduced, and I was sitting with Larry for lunch one day, or coffee one day, and he was like, "Man, you have to meet my friend Erica." He was describing you, and I was like, "Holy shit, I gotta meet this lady." I want to talk to her because this is like this is my issue. So tell everyone about yourself a little bit. Like, what do you do, Erica?
What do I do? Well, I mean, I'm kind of curious. What was it that Larry said? Do you remember that had you react with, "Oh my gosh, I need to meet her"?
Yeah, what he said was she helps people like communicate well in the world, and I am I curse. I'm this shit talking martial artist, basically what I do, but I believe in like real human connection. But I'm not like soft and sugarcoaty about it. Like, "Oh, I'm so sorry that happened. That's awful so I just don't do that. Like I do like, yeah, that fucking happened to you. And what are you going to do about it? because you can't, like, what happened to you is all in your past, and like you there's nothing we can do about that. But like the way he described like how you communicate with people, because I get sometimes people on my wife says it best, I'm like a fucking fungus, Erica, and then I grow on you.
I love it.
So maybe if I could be, I mean, like, look, this is who I am. So maybe if I could be a little less fun, I mean, I like being a fun guy, but a little bit less fun guy-y.
Got it.
So he just described to me that like you like help leaders go through the world a little bit and how to be a little more, I can't say authentic because I'm pretty fucking authentic.
Right.
A little more palatable, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe palatable.
Yeah. Yeah, the way I describe it to clients, students, how do we just have more range?
Yeah.
That we're not just showing up or communicating in the ways that are comfortable or have worked for us, have become our own kind of habitual patterns. But if we want to have more influence and be more effective in a wider range of situations and situations that are uncertain, that kind of surprise us or catch us off guard a little bit, how do we, in those moments, react and respond with a little bit more intention or choice that might help us get what we want out of the situation in that particular moment?
Yes, that's exactly what. Because what surprises me a lot is that like for me personally, and like I'm trying to talk to a lot of women personally, because just like in my own personal life and experience, because like all right, sure, you know who identifies really well with me, this like I'm 250 pounds, I fought in the UFC, like I'm in shape, I look fit, and yada yada. So like, yeah, no kidding, dudes are gonna fucking like, oh man,
be all over you,
right? Yeah, like no fucking kidding, right? So, but how? And I'm not saying like dudes are all over me, but I'm just saying like in general, that like it's easy for me to attract the male. But I don't want to just attract the male, because I think I don't think the male and the like, I mean, there are differences between us, male and female, like just biological differences and psychological differences, I think. But I don't think we need much different. I think we both can find leadership from the same type of person.
Right. Absolutely.
So how do I do that better? And like, I mean, like, yeah, sure, I'm trying to be Joe Rogan, but fuck. If I want to lead more females, then I got to talk to some females. Right.
Yeah. So if you're the fungus, is that what your wife said? If you're a fungus?
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. She went out with me, Erica, to win a bet. She had a bet. She had a bet with her friend. Okay. And the bet was who could go out on the most first dates without going out on a second. And it was May the 30th and they were tied. So she went out with me.
And you grew on her.
Yeah, I grew on her. Like,
That's great.
Yeah, I grew on her. So
I think
go ahead.
My version of fungus would, because I'm trying to think, that's a great metaphor. What would my metaphor be? And, I taught a class, so I teach at UC Berkeley at Haas, the School of Business, teach a leadership course. And a few days after I taught one of the classes, it's a 3-day immersion experience, I got an email from one of the students, and he wrote, "Dear Erica, thank you so much. You're so much more than a coach or a professor. I really wish we could call you something like freedom fighter." And I was so moved by that. I mean, who calls you a freedom fighter? But if I think about what I'm trying to do, it's all come from my own struggle, my own journey. I mean, I'm Chinese American. My parents are immigrants. We grew up in a household. I mean, my parents didn't really even, English was their second language. So if you're talking about communication, they were dealing with a second language. We didn't really deal with emotions. And so much of what I try to impart for people is being more aware and connected to our emotions and our reactivity, because it's always happening. We're always reacting, but it's usually we're unconscious of how we're feeling and reacting. And then that ends up really limiting us in terms of how we're connecting with ourselves or each other, and how effective we're being. So I think helping people be more aware of what's actually going on internally in terms of emotional reactivity, and then equipping people with skills to actually engage and relate to people in ways where we're able to share, but effectively, not kind of, unconsciously and all over the place, where we're really at, how we're really being affected by each other or other things that are going on in our lives or our world, in order to build connection, to have effectiveness, to have the person turn towards us, be drawn towards us. That's the freedom to just get out of our box and not be as limited as we have been, because we haven't learned any of this stuff. We didn't learn this in school.
Well, it's so hard to teach, right? Like, it's so, I don't know. I mean, I'll give you an example. Like, I have this, you know what Voxer is? It's like a walkie-talkie app where you can like talk to people.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a bunch of different Voxer groups, and one of them is with 3 friends. It's me and 3 friends, and they're all super religious, Christian. And I mean, I'm not. So basically we do a lot of shit talking and we make fun, but we're really good friends. But, we do dumb guy shit. And the other day, but sometimes it gets heated, right? Like one of us will like ping the other one and boom. And man, I could have sworn, like I would have bet my life on the fact that my one friend said that I was a terrible leader. Like I would have bet that those words came out of his mouth. And the reason, and when I went back, and I was really upset by it. And when I went back and listened to it, because they were like, dude, go back and listen to it. He never said that. Like we touched on some things. I was like, fuck you guys. He said that, But when I went back and listened to it, he never had said that. He never said those words or even like got close to those words. And I had this other situation going on in my life where I was like, I'd been trying to lead someone like for years. Like I was kind of his, like I was helping him through his life, he's one of my students, and it went terribly wrong after like over a decade. And so that happened. And then I had this conversation with my friends. So I was feeling like a failure and a terrible leader. And I didn't even notice it at the time. And I would have bet every penny I had that my friend said, you're a terrible leader on that Voxer thread. And it never came out. Mm-hmm. Those words never came out. But it was all this other bullshit that was going on. It was really crazy.
Yeah. That's a great example. This is one of the things I will share with folks, that our brain is amazing. And one of the things that happens is, one, we're in a negativity bias. It's our survival hardwiring.
What's a negativity bias?
So we're trying to stay alive, right? Our brain, and we have a nervous system that's just constantly scanning the environment, really to pick up any signs of threat that might harm us or threaten our body or our life's ability to be alive. And we're not really aware of this, but this is, how we stay alive. So our brain is built for many things, but one of the things it's built for, and there's different parts of the brain, but we have this amygdala in our brain, and it is sort of the fear control center. So when we're scanning things, and if the brain picks up on something that even slightly resembles a threat from things that we remember, stored memory. And this is all happening in like a split second, microsecond.
Nothing we have control over is what you're saying.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. This is like millions of years of survival DNA. So like you and your friends were having this, going back and forth, having a disagreement, sparring with each other. You pick up a threat, and then again, within microseconds, all these things start happening to your body. Your nervous system starts sending signals up. Got to prepare for pain or danger. So blood starts getting rechanneled from our internal organs. And if we're feeling fear, the blood will get channeled to our legs to prepare us to run. If we're feeling anger, blood will get channeled to our arms to prepare us to fight. Glucose will get released to give us energy in case we've got to, run, fight, do something. And then the brain is now, it doesn't need to do higher order thinking. If there's like a large animal that's about to charge us, or if someone's about to pick a fight with us, we don't need to be very detail oriented. Right now, we just need to get ourselves out of here. So the brain kind of goes offline in terms of its ability to cognitively process. And then it's only picking up on data that's actually reinforcing the threat and the trigger. So the example that you just gave, like you swear you heard your friend say those words, but you went back and you listened and it never happened. But that's your brain just at such a heightened awareness and sensitivity to pick up any more signals to help your body basically just keep surviving and just being ready to protect itself and defend. And so there are things that we either don't remember, or stories or assumptions that we create that we think happened. So it's just the way we're perceiving things that are happening are shaped, and they're not necessarily what's actually going on.
And we're doing this all the time.
Sense.
Like, I'm sure, I can't imagine how much my wife and I do this with each other.
Oh, constantly.
Right? Like, because I'm like, no, you said this, and she's like, no, I didn't, and like, yes, you did. Like like I think we've all been in that struggle before, and it gets very frustrating. And like, unfortunately, we don't like do most of our communication on Voxer, where we could go back and listen. Right? This is just such a clear example to me of how our emotions and things can just like fuck what we think sometimes. Like. So it was really cool, and I was super excited to talk to you about it. And when we talked the other day, I didn't want to talk to you about it because it had already happened, and I didn't want to talk to you about it because I was like, no, this is what I want to talk about a little bit. So, but yeah, like, so where does this? How do we deal with this? Like, how do we deal with this? Let's call it triggering, right? Like these things that trigger us.
Right. So maybe I'll just start with this 3-line quote that I open my class with.
Okay.
Because I think it's really at the heart of what we're trying to do. So here's a quote. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose a response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. So we're really talking about that space between stimulus and response.
Yes.
Right? Something happens, and then it triggers something, and then we have a reaction. And usually what happens, it's microseconds before, because we honestly, we can't control our reactions. Those are just happening. But what we can do is we can be aware that we're having a reaction. And then if we can expand that space before we actually do something, say something, or, react, if we can expand that space, then we have a little bit hope of not getting completely derailed from what we're trying to accomplish. It might be with a friend, a coworker, a partner, whatever it is, our kids. So here's a couple ways that you can handle that moment. One, when we're getting triggered or we're having a response to threat, our nervous system, our heart rate, everything is getting activated. Our heart rate is increasing, right? Blood is flowing, adrenaline is pumping, and it's putting the body into some level of distress. And then we're reacting. So one key strategy is, how do I get my system to deactivate in those moments? How do I bring my heart rate down? So a couple simple things. One is, can I if I can notice, oh my gosh, like I notice my heart rate is going up. I notice I might be getting warm. I'm getting sweaty palms. If I can notice any of those physiological signals, because those are the things that happen first. And then if I can begin to put words to them, if I can notice them and then actually name what I think I'm sensing, like, oh, there's my heart. I feel my heart pounding against my chest. Oh, yeah, feeling some sweat on my brow. Just even doing that engages the cognitive thinking brain enough that we're not just fully swept away by the reactivity. There's just enough distance in trying to think of words that match whatever my experience is that we buy ourselves like a few seconds, just enough to pause, maybe.
Yeah, man, this sounds even like, for me, like a panic attack even. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like high anxiety, like, because that's what we're kind of talking about here, right? Like, because I mean, I suffer from anxiety. So like, yeah, my palms get sweaty. I feel my heart, like my vision gets really, really tight, almost like I'm going to pass out.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like, and that's exactly what I have to do to notice. Like, I have to like talk myself out of it a little bit. Like I have to be like, okay, my palms are sweaty. What does that mean? Nothing, you know? Oh, okay. Like, I guess if I pass out, I pass out. Like, there's nothing I can do. Like, what can I do? You know? So like, I have to like put in like, kind of like, I don't know if I put in like, I just get it out of my head a little bit.
Or maybe it's more like you get it into your head so you can pause and not just be fully in the anxiety, or, you're not the anxiety. You understand, oh, I'm noticing this is happening to me. But really the strategy is to start lowering the heart rate and some of the activation that's happening in the nervous system, because it's the nervous system, when it gets activated, that's what sets all this stuff into play in terms of getting protective and defended.
Right.
And reacting in that way.
And then you can just get fired. Like when we're going back to like the argument kind of stuff, or like the dealing with people, not anxiety again. Like, and then you can just get fired up and just say the dumbest shit.
That's right. That's right. And the other thing that's happening, the other reason why we're saying the dumbest shit, is we're also the brain is also making up stories about the other person or the situation, or sometimes even ourselves. So, if your wife and you are having a disagreement or something, the way that the things that we end up saying often come out of the stories and the assumptions that are happening in our mind. Again, it happens so quickly, you don't even realize it. We're making all these assumptions about why is she saying this? Why is she doing this? Oh, she's doing this because, whatever. She's actually not really interested in what I have to say right now. She just wants to get her point across. Right. That's a story. That's an assumption. We have no idea what's going on with her. Maybe she feels like you're not listening to her, and so she has to try extra hard to make her point. Who knows? But our brain is trying to understand and make sense of all this stuff, and so it also wants to justify our reactions. So a lot of times, our stories come out of our reactions, they're justifying them, but then they create even more reactions. Because say you're creating a story around your wife, and then that kind of further irritates you. But we don't even know if it's true. But there you are now.
It's like it's like the shitty first draft of a book.
Right. Right. Except it's a live action. Right?
You're somebody else is actually seeing it. Where like your first draft is just for you. You're like, I'm going to write this, and I know it's going to suck, but I know I have to write it. But where we do this with people in conversations, like it's and you can really have this great effect on people, and it's not what we negatively, right, and positively, and when we react like this, it's a lot of times it's the negative. Yeah, because we don't really know what's going on. We're just trying to take care of ourselves and protect and defend. But that's not a great strategy for connection, maintaining connection, or accomplishing whatever our shared goals are. Right. So here's another strategy. First, I'll give you another tidbit. So one strategy that the body has for lowering the heart rate is contempt. So contempt is
the way I'll sort of explain it now is, if I think you have like less value or worth, or no value or worth than me, then whatever you're saying to me right now that's kind of triggering me, I will be less affected by it because you have no value. And then my heart rate can go down. But the problem with contempt is, it's really completely dehumanizing or devaluing another person.
I was going to say, hold on. Like people that I have contempt for don't fucking affect me. I could care less.
Right. But if this starts happening in, an argument with your friends or a wife or a client or student, right? Yeah, there we are in our argument and conflict.
It doesn't happen to me with like clients or whoever, because I don't have I love them, or not. I don't love them. I care about them, but like this only happens to me with people that I love. Mm-hmm.
Right. Where there's possibly more vulnerability or risk.
My life
so
could
I need
blow
to.
up.
Yeah. So I'm more affected by them. So now we're in this conflict. Whoa, I'm getting activated. Again, this is all unconscious. This is just the body and the nervous system taking care of itself.
Right. It's so crazy because we're having this where we were like 25 minutes in and we're talking about like milliseconds that this all happens in, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Like
milliseconds.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Sorry, I cut you off, but go ahead.
No. So again, if I can notice that this is happening to me, I'm going into contempt. And there's different forms of contempt, blame, judgment. And judgment is really more stories about a person's, negative intent or something. So if I notice this is happening, blame, Brene Brown. I don't know if you're familiar with Brene Brown, but she's got this great little...
I love Brene Brown. Yes, I was going to ask you if you knew Brene Brown. I am a...
Yeah.
Yes. Daring greatly. But it's all like I have this quote. I'm sorry, I'm going to divulge. I have the Teddy Roosevelt, her book Daring Greatly is basically all about the man in the arena quote from Teddy Roosevelt, right?
Right.
It's sitting on my wall in my office. This is my favorite.
Yeah.
This is like top 3 quotes of I have one tattooed on my arm, a quote, and then I have the Teddy Roosevelt quote, and I have an MLK quote, and those are like the quotes I try to like live my life by.
Yep. Brene, yeah, she's got a quick 3-minute video on blame.
Okay.
And the way she defines blame is a discharge of pain and discomfort. But pain and discomfort are vulnerable emotions.
Sure.
And it can be risky to even let ourselves know that we're feeling them, let alone let the other person know, especially if we're in some kind of disagreement. So what ends up happening when we're feeling vulnerable or lonely or fearful that they don't like us anymore is we end up getting protective and defensive, and we show up with these, like criticism, blame, judgment, these just harder, more aggressive, kind of more fighting, defending emotions and behaviors. But again, they're not great strategies for connection because, we turn away from those things when someone's coming at us with that. So like if I can notice I'm feeling blame or judgment, maybe if I can start naming that again, I can notice in that pause, in that space between reaction, that maybe there is something a little bit more vulnerable going on. And the other way I could choose to lower my heart rate instead of contempt, or maybe shifting into it from contempt, is to get curious. So curiosity also in research shows that it also lowers the heart rate.
Yeah.
And
I have to interrupt you. Do you know what I love that you're saying right now that just I think is amazing? Like you're talking about feelings, right? And our feelings. And one of the things that kills me today, and I think like we have to pay attention to other people's feelings, but like you're not saying that like this what was it? Blame and what was the other thing? Judgment, right? You're not putting that on the person that's talking to you. You're putting that on me, the individual who's having these feelings. And you're not saying that your reaction is, oh no, you're blaming and judging me. You need to stop. What you're saying is, that we have to deal with our feeling of blame and judgment. Not that the world has to like change for us. That this is on us. This is on the individual.
Right.
You know, and I think this is something that really causes a lot of separation in the world, especially in our society. Is that like so like, you know, you have this, oh, I'm a self-made man person over here, and then you have this, oh, look at what has happened to me person over here, and they both just want to blame and judge the other side. And what you're saying is no, hold on. Your blame and your judgment is for you to deal with. It is not for anybody else. That's right.
Because a lot of our reactivity is also shaped by our life experience. So it's not just, we think it's all about the other person. And if that person would just change or stop doing what they're doing, whatever, then I'll feel better. So let me just put it on them.
And it doesn't seem to work real well for us, does it?
Yeah, it doesn't work at all. Yeah, right? I mean, do you change if your wife tells you like to just stop doing what you're doing?
No, it doesn't work, because if somebody else will bring up these same feelings and emotions in me, right? Like this, like it's, I don't know, like, yeah, it's on me to handle my shit.
That's right. And that's where we get into the leadership.
Yeah.
Leadership is about owning your stuff, owning your reaction, knowing where it's coming from, knowing the part of you and your own life history or your own biases or your own, whatever it is that's shaping your own reaction, that it's not all about the external source of it that you think it's about. You know, it might be a little bit triggered by that, but
we can't control it, right? We can't control that. What can we like I can't control what my wife's going to say to me. I can't control what my friend's going to say. I mean, what's today? The 8th or something? What's May 9th? I don't know. It's fucking snowing right here in I'm looking at snow outside my window, Erica. Right? Like, you know, like I had this beautiful tree like in my backyard. I don't even know what kind of tree it is, but it's really beautiful. It has these white blossoms. And now it's going to be dead. They're going to be gone because we have this wet, heavy snow, right? Like, and if my life and work, I know this is like a stupid example, but like who am I supposed to get mad at for the snow? God?
Right.
So, yeah. I love it. This is my favorite thing about doing this podcast. Like, I don't care that I care that people listen. Like, I don't want to waste my time, but I get so much out of this because I try to find this real like middle ground with like, you know, I don't want to be too right and I don't want to be too left, you know, because I want a broad listenership. And I was like, you know, God, I'm going to have this lady from Berkeley on. Everyone's going to see it as real. Like, oh, you're going way left, because they know I stand left anyway a little bit, you know, like I'm not going to deny it. I'm more liberal than I am than the other way. But what you're saying isn't like this, like, I think it resonates with everyone, right? It's not like, you know, if like people on the right side of the aisle, like they love to hear this shit, that it's on us to deal with our emotions and judgments, not to get too political. So, but yeah, I mean, this is just amazing. You're totally surprising me here a little bit.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. You know, so man, I really love this. How did you get here? Like, so you said like, how did you get here where you are in your life? Kind of like you said, you're Chinese American immigrant, like first generation here, right? Like,
first generation born here.
You were born here, and where were you?
I was born in Massachusetts.
Okay.
Grew up in Long Meadow, and I think my journey began because I was the only Chinese kid until middle school. Maybe except for 1 year in preschool or something.
Okay.
And it was painful for me because I was the only one who was different. And here was how I had a threat response to that. You know, when you're the only one who's different, the story that I created, or what I felt, it was a threat. I felt I was a liability because I was different. So difference can also bring up threat response. So I rejected everything about myself that was Chinese because I wanted to fit in. This is the other thing. This is what cuts across all people. It doesn't matter what your religious or political affiliation is.
Right.
We all want to belong and feel connection. We all need it. We're social creatures.
We're connected.
And
we are definitely connected animals. Like
yeah.
We need each other.
Right. We can't survive alone. Right. So to be the only one who was different felt unsafe. And so I convinced myself, in order to feel safe and deactivate my nervous system, I convinced myself that I was white and Jewish because this was the town that I lived in. And that became my identity. I really kind of thought of myself as white and Jewish.
That's funny. I have my dad. So my dad's black, so I'm half black, and my kid, his skin is as white as anybody's skin could be, but he's all into like issues. Like he's super in tune to like social issues in the world, especially for like a 9-year-old. And like, he loves black people. And I'm like, dude, you self-identify as black, don't you? And he's like, yeah, I do, so he's a quarter black. I'm not, and my mom's Jewish. So we have this, like, I call it the black Jew fro. Like that's his hair, but like, he's trying to grow a fro right now because like, it's funny how you say you're you're a Chinese lady identifying as a white Jew.
Oh yeah. It's complex, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But I think, so I grew up this way and I came out to California to go to college. I was at Stanford. And, this was like the late 80s, sort of the height of multiculturalism and diversity. And, I'm welcome to campus and people are celebrating me for being Asian and inviting me to all these different Asian activities, like dumpling parties and Tai Chi classes. And again, I rejected it all. I spent my whole life trying to pretend that I wasn't Chinese. And now all these people are coming at me like,
you're like, hey, are you missing something? I ain't Chinese. I'm fucking white.
Right. Yeah. And it was such cognitive dissonance to me because I'd spent my whole life avoiding being recognized as Chinese.
Right.
That it was too much really for me to handle. It was an identity crisis really. And so I dropped out of Stanford maybe 5 months after getting there. And one of the reasons was internally, I couldn't deal with this disconnect. The story that I had to create for myself of being white in order to feel more safe and in order to feel connection and belonging. So this is kind of a weird way of answering your question, but I think I have felt the pain of disconnection and separation through these divides that we create for ourselves around how we're different from each other. And I think it's really limiting the possibility and the potential in our own lives and the possibility that happens when we're in a collective and we're able to partner up and just find the gift in our difference. But we have to first train our system to be able to bear the discomfort because that's just the way we react. We have reactivity to difference biologically.
We're animals, right? We're animals. There's nothing we can do about that.
Right. Like if you're not in my tribe, if you don't look like me, maybe you're not so safe. Yeah.
I have a similar experience, right? I'm a black Jew that grew up in South Jersey. It was me and my sister, and that was it. Right. Like my parents loved me, right? But my mom wasn't black and my dad wasn't Jewish. So, so literally it was the two of us. And there was not another, we did not fit in a single place. Like there was no place that we fit in. So, I hear you, and so I don't know what, I became anxious, I became anxious. Right. My sister suffers from depression, and, so it just, because you don't know what's coming around the door. And like, or around the corner, like I grew up, when I'm not just Jewish, like, just to share some of my story with you, like, I grew up with Holocaust surviving grandparents. And my dad went through, my dad was born 1948. And, so he went through the civil rights movement as a, so like shit, it was ugly, so like everyone that was close to me was like, be careful, be very, very fucking careful because, it wasn't a joke, right? It wasn't like you might get bullied, like you might die. And that was a theme, you know. And I'm not blaming anybody here, because like I don't think, like, for sure my grandparents, like, and my everyone around me, they couldn't help it, because that was their experience. Like my grandparents survived the Holocaust. My dad, his family, like, came from the South, like surviving slavery and the Jim Crow laws and all of that, right? Like this wasn't like some like, oh, you might get beat up stuff. Like this wasn't like, oh,
right.
You get made fun of. This was like, no. You get thrown in an oven and you get hung from a tree.
Right.
So like, yeah, and that never happened to me. That was not my experience, but the people who raised me, that was their experience. Right.
Yeah. And it got channeled, it got funneled to you.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Not just through them, but through our social context and historical forces, right? We pick up these things and then we internalize them, and then it shapes how we're reacting and how we're perceiving ourselves and how we're perceiving other people and how we're showing up in the world and moving. And
yeah, I have to fight this every day, Erica. You know, like I wake up and like I said earlier, I'm like a shit talking kind of a harsher, you know, I wouldn't say harsher, but I don't know what the word is, but like, you know, I have this term called DBAB, and it's like I can't be a bitch and I can't be a bully, you know, and most of it for me is being a bitch, which is just like fear, like that's what I'm defining. Like I just let my life be run by fear, because that's how that was like the first 20 years of my life, just afraid, you know? And then what that turned me into is when I actually got good at fighting, it turned me into this bully a little bit, where I would like bully people, but I was like, I tried to make them afraid, right? Because that was my reactive. So now like every day, like I do my meditation, I wake up, I say my little obstacle is the way phrase, and then I say, you got to fucking debab today, Eliot. Like you can't do either one, you know? Like, so like this is something that I'm super, like I have to fight it. I have to fight it every day because I know where it takes me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And the fear, you know, that's such a visceral survival, you know, I'm in my survival reaction. I'm in my fight or flight, right, or freeze or dissociate, because I'm really needing to protect myself now.
For sure. All right. So take me back to Stanford. So you drop out of Stanford.
I dropped out of Stanford, and I mean, I was going through my own version of what you just described. You know, I think my nervous system was a bit jacked up from all those years of being distressed from being the one who was different. I think probably every day my nervous system was a little bit amped up, and I had learned how to cope with it. One of the coping mechanisms was, you know, pretending that I was white, I guess, convincing myself I was white. And I think this story and your story is taking us into the direction of what happens when we're nervous, when our nervous system is in a chronic threat response. And that's getting us into the realm of trauma.
So for those people that don't understand chronic threat response, all the time you feel threatened.
That's right. My system is activated because I'm prepared. I'm prepared for pain or danger.
Yeah, for me, it wasn't pain. For me, it was danger.
Danger. Yeah. Right. Or, you know, it could be pain from that danger or that threat or, right?
Yeah, good point.
Being bullied or in a fight. And that has an extreme toll on our body and our nervous system. And there's chemicals that are surging through, and there's just so much energy that's like adrenaline, and you know, there's so much that's being called up to deal with the threat, but then we're not actually able to release it in the way that we would if it really was like a charging animal, and we would be able to fight or run. All that would be released. But when we're just sort of in our life managing that threat, we're not able to release it. And so a lot of it's just it's getting stored in our system, and it's wearing on us, and it's also heightening our sensitivity, so we become more reactive.
You're blowing my mind right now. There's so many examples.
Is it fitting your experience?
Just in so many other ways. I mean, like everything you say, Eric, is making me just like froze. I mean, so when I fought, like when I would fight, and my wife would be in the stands, right? Like after the fight, I'd be fine. Like, I'd be fine. Like, because I went and fought and had the dump. I got rid of all those feelings. And she would be a fucking mess, like an absolute mess, because she'd be having the same feelings and it went nowhere. Right? It went nowhere. So like these things that you're saying, it's so crazy in all the places that it's like, and this is just my dumb, stupid life, right? Like, I'm sure this is everyone, but you know, we all can find these things. So it's really it's just cool. It's just really cool what you're talking about. So I'm every time you say something, I'm like, oh God, I got this, and then there was that. Like man, amazing. Yeah, it's you know, like there's a hilarious. Go ahead.
No, you go.
There's this hilarious story. So this one time I had a fight, and I mean, it's just so funny. And I mean, it was the only fight that I ever had that went perfect. Like I beat the guy's ass in like 45 seconds, you know? So I was all amped. I was amped, stoked, amazing. My wife was like stressed and drained, and we were driving home, and like my friends were like going out, and I was like, and she was done. Like I could just see it on her face. Like and I wasn't done. I needed to go have some fun now, you know? And she was like, yeah, why don't you just go? You know, I was like, okay. So we stop on the middle of the highway, I-25 in Denver, and she drops me off, and my friends come and pick me up. Like I'm just standing on the highway. And then we go out and have a good time. And we go, and this was at midnight, right? Like, so this all happened at midnight when she dropped me off. And we go out, we have a good time, and now my friends are going to come crash at my house. It's like 3:30. So we're only talking like 3.5 hours, right? I come in the house, my friends come in the house, and my wife opens the door to our bedroom and just starts screaming at us, like absolutely screaming. And I'm like, what the fuck? You know, like I can't figure out what's going on. And then they're like, holy shit. And they just like run to the basement. And like I go upstairs, you know, and I'm like, babe, what's the matter? She's like, you left me. And like, she's like, because she has like a little abandonment issue, you know? And especially so like a fight is a very intense thing, right? Like, so she watched me fight, and then like, so there's this possibility, you know? And I go upstairs. I'm like, babe, what are you talking about? I left you. You dropped me off. She's like, that was days ago, hours ago. Where have you been? And like, she's like, she can't get a hold of herself, you know? And I'm like, babe, stop. Can you like take a deep breath? I'm like, can you look at the clock? And she was like, and she looks at the clock and she's like, okay, it's 3:45, 4 o'clock now. And I'm like, I fought. Like I walked in the cage at 11 p.m. the night, you know, like 4.5, 5 hours ago. So by the time we got done everything, I was like, babe, I went and had a drink and got some dinner. And like, she couldn't process it until like she could like get out of herself and like be like, whoa. But the feelings that she was having from the fight were so intense that she made no sense, like 0 sense. And I was fine because I got the dump. I won, you know, I went and fought somebody.
Right. Yeah.
So, you know, and you're just saying the same kind of stuff, you know, it's really, you know, it's really cool, and in smaller ways and more broad steps.
Yeah, I think I'm just trying to peel back the veil of like, this is what's happening all the time behind our reactions, what we're saying, what we're doing, what we're feeling, what we're perceiving, choices that we're making. And we're not taught like the internal workings of what's actually happening. And only when we know what's happening can we begin to then not be limited by it because it's happening unconsciously. If we're aware, we can begin to do things like, oh, okay, this is about my nervous system. Oh, this is about me not feeling safe. That's why I'm lashing out. You know, okay, what can I do in this moment? How do I regulate? How do I get my heart rate to come down? And then just give me a little pause. And then, you know, then what do I need to do? Maybe I need to do some other things. But
right.
If I can just expand those microseconds of that initial reactivity, and then it becomes easier over time. It's like a workout, you know. If I do my reps and I flex those muscles, they get stronger. I become more aware. I become more attuned to like, oh yeah, this is a familiar moment. I know this moment. Okay, I know what I got to do.
I fucking love you. But it's just what it is. It's a workout, you know? It's a workout. It's a workout. Right? And you get better at it the more you do it, right? Like once you're aware you're fat and out of shape and you need to eat better, it gets much easier, right? Like, yeah, sure, the first day's really hard. You know, the first month is hard. The second month, better. Okay, I'm better. Okay, I can run a mile. Okay, I can run a mile and a half. Okay, I can run 2 miles. It's the same thing, just in reverse now, right? Oh, okay, it takes me an hour. Oh, it takes me a half an hour. Now it takes me, okay, now I can see this real fast.
That's right. It just takes reps and practice.
Yeah.
I think the hard thing is we have a lot working against us because our culture and our society is so not geared towards this. I mean, we're everybody's running on adrenaline. Our lives are so busy. This stuff takes time. It takes time to take a pause. Okay, what's going on with me? And we're a very reactive culture. We're not cultivating resilience and the ability in young people or adults to bear the discomfort of messiness.
Yeah, there was just another shooting here in Colorado yesterday, like a school shooting of some kids that get bullied, right? And like, it's such a problem, right? Like I totally understand like the bully thing, right? But man, we got to teach our kids how to be a little more resilient to bullies as well. Like we don't have to go shoot up a school. Like, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that don't need to end bullying and how we treat each other in general, but it's both problems. It's such a bigger issue of our society right now. It's not just like this gun issue or not like just this mental health issue. It's such a big issue.
Yeah, it is. And I think this is getting back to the trauma. Like, I think, again, our culture, we have a bias towards external, concrete productivity, get things done.
Mm-hmm.
Let's measure what we're doing. And okay, only then are we being productive. And yet we're all walking around with struggle and pain in our lives. And that's just part of the human experience. And yet there's really very few, if not no, resources that acknowledge that and say, it's okay. We're all struggling. How do we release some of this trauma from our nervous system? So we're not just in this loop of unconscious reactivity or, false perceptions and assumptions about ourselves and other people that just derail us again into some divisive separation. You're different from me. I must attack you or contempt you. There's really no resources in our lives for this.
How do you feel about social media? Because like I want to say, like, getting back to like the school shooting thing, like, or like with kids in general, right? Like when you and I, how old are you, Erica?
I'm 50.
Okay, you're a little older than me. But when we were kids, right? Like if school was terrible, when we went home, we could get away from it, right? You had like, you left school at 3, you didn't have to be back until 8. Right. So like, how long were you at school? You were at school for 7 hours. So, there's 24 hours in a day. So you had 17 hours away from it. But that doesn't happen now, right? With social media and even for adults, right? Like we're constantly checking our phones to get the approval or the criticism either end of other people. Like, so what is this doing to us? And like, how do you see that?
Well, it was someone actually I heard speaking about this at Aaron's event.
Okay.
And that it gets problematic because what we're seeking is a dopamine rush. Dopamine is sort of like a happy emotion that floods our brain and it feels really good.
It's worse than crack.
So, yeah, it's addictive. And so I think what people are realizing now is part of the addictiveness is the dopamine rush. And it's just problematic for young people when their brains are developing. And I think, again, it's contributing to us not having resilience because we can just turn the phone off or not deal with it or unfriend somebody or not like somebody, or, we can just do all these very reactive things to feel a little bit better or to have a dopamine rush instead of having to hang in there with someone to really work it out and to kind of understand where we're coming from if we're, different, and if we're triggering each other. So, none of us got these skills in school, but we kind of had to learn how to work it out on the playground or, as best
Sure.
we could anyway.
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
So I am concerned. I'm not sure where we're going if social media is kind of the way that young people are creating relationships.
They don't work it out on the playground anymore, right? They just keep quiet and then go destroy each other on social media.
Yeah.
But man, if you fight in school, you get expelled. Like, sometimes you got to fight. Like, we fight. Boys especially, we fight. We push each other, we shove, and then we, I can't, like, it's kind of why I love jiu-jitsu for me. Like, I get to beat up my best friends and they get to beat me up too. And then, like, it just is better. Like, we, but we're not doing it maliciously. But we deal with some of these issues sometimes. But our kids aren't real. Like, we don't allow them. We don't give unsupervised play. We're just hovering over them. So there's no release for them sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I cut you off multiple times about Stanford. What I want to hear after Stanford. I won't say anything. So even if you say something amazing, okay? If you say something amazing, and then I start to cut in, you say, "No, Eliot, shut the fuck up." But I really want to hear about after Stanford. Those words, Eliot, shut the fuck up.
No, I think everything we've talked about is sort of after Stanford. I think it just left me in a bit of a hole. I didn't learn any of these skills. I had rejected many parts of myself. I had a lot of insecurity, some anxiety. I felt like a liability. I didn't feel like I had what it takes to be in this world because, one, I wasn't white and that wasn't safe. And so, everything I teach is stuff that I've had to learn and pick up along the way that I was drawn to, that helped me kind of put myself back together.
Right.
So it was 30 years of trying to make up for the failure of our culture and what it does not equip us for. Right.
And you're not like, again, I love it. You're not blaming anybody. You're not like, oh, it's your fault or it's this person's fault. Like, this is kind of, but it's what you did to help yourself and get yourself through. And then now you're helping change the culture. You're not complaining, right? There's been no complaining from you, which is what we need. I don't know. I think we need more of it, right? Like, okay, this is what it is. So let's work. Let's deal. And make it better.
Luckily, I've gotten to that point, but there were many, many, many years where I was in blame, but it was from my own pain. And I blamed my parents. I blamed my mother. I blamed the system. I still kind of do at the system level, but we're all victims of this system, right? We didn't learn real tools to help us in life with what we really need. We learned how to take a standardized test, or I did. I learned how to get really good at that and get into school.
Right.
And what does that do for me? It does nothing for me,
It didn't get you happy, even if it, like, I don't know, my friend called me the other day. He was like, I think in my last podcast, my other friend and I were talking about, like, money doesn't bring you happiness. And he was like, guys, money can bring you happiness, and I just don't think it does. I think it can bring you some joy in a moment, but it doesn't bring you happiness. Passing a test gets you into Harvard, and Harvard gets you a law degree, and your law degree gets you, I don't know, you know, you're some high powered lawyer and you have a ton of money, but like, you know, you're still, you know, let's say in your case, maybe if like that was yours, you're still this Asian lady who doesn't fit in, who doesn't feel comfortable, who doesn't, you know, so yeah, sure. You might be able to drive a really nice fancy fucking car, and you might have a big old house and take badass vacations, and you might try to do all these things. You might just try to fill your life with a lot of joy so that you seem happy, but you're not, you're not happy.
That's right. And I think that's what's happening with many, many of us. And I say that because I've worked with hundreds of students, clients, participants in workshops, and I read their work, which is like journals, diaries, their deepest, darkest feelings and experience. And everyone is struggling. Doesn't matter what is going on the outside and how successful we are.
It's the only common thread.
Yeah, that is our common humanity. And so I think part of what I'm doing is trying to normalize, like, it's okay to have feelings, whatever they are. There are no bad feelings. It's more just our reactivity and the impact we can have, the negative impact we can have when we're unconscious about our feelings and we just lash out. But we're not bad. We're not bad people. We're struggling in a situation where we didn't get any skills to equip us with how to navigate through all this complexity and intensity. And, you know, the world is a complex place right now. And these young people, yeah.
You say, go ahead, sorry.
They're picking up on it.
Yeah, you say we're struggling. But my favorite quote of all time is, I have it tattooed on my arm. The impediment of action, advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. So yeah, the struggle is the way. The obstacle is the way. Like you found this through struggle. It wasn't handed to you. It didn't come naturally at all. You know, and you got here. So man, amazing. I want to thank you for coming on. You know, like this is, man, I think I'm enjoying reaching out to people that I don't know as well. And doing shows with them more than some of the people that I know, because I get to learn so much, and I get to, you know, and I mean, I guess, yeah, I do it for the listeners, but fuck you guys, listeners. You know, this was great for me. You know, like this was, and I say that as joking as possible. You know, but yeah, it was so good. You know, I mean, so I guess that's my intensity there. That's how I roll. But yeah, like we have to do this. We you know, like this has been, you know, this made my day. You know, this helps make my day. Like. Because we shouldn't have too much in common, Erica, right? I'm a 250-pound UFC fighter, and you know, and you are an Asian academic, right? And there's but you know, from the outward perception of things, like, what in the fucking world could we talk about? And right, but we found some things, you know. And,
I feel so kindred and aligned with you. I feel like we're kind of fighting for the same freedoms.
Cause. Yeah. So I'm excited to do more work with you. Where can people find you? How can, if they want to work with you, how can they reach out?
We'll have a website. It's www.deepstreamleadership.com.
Okay.
And yeah, there's just information about my approach, what I believe in, why I do this.
Awesome. Are you on social media?
Honestly, I'm not really.
All right. Yeah, that girl, no social. So, I will, Eric, if you could email me that website, you know, or just send it to me. You can text it to me, whatever. That way, in the link for the show, I can include that as well. So I really appreciate you coming on. I hope you have a great day. Is it sunny in California?
It's a little gray, but it's not snowing.
Yeah, it's snowing here. Yeah, it's rained it's been raining since it rained Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then like last night at like 10 o'clock it started snowing. So we always get one of these in the spring here in Colorado. It's the way it rolls.
Right.
So, but thank you very much, man. This was a great. I loved it. You're amazing. Keep doing your thing, and I'm definitely going to be in touch because I need more help.
Yeah. No, I'm glad we're gonna be connected.
Sounds great, Erica. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
All right. Have a great day.
Bye, Eliot.
Yeah. Bye. All right, guys, thanks for listening to this episode of The Gospel of Fire. Don't forget to check me out on all of my social media at FireMarshal205. Again, at FireMarshal205. Go to my YouTube channel. FireMarshal01, that is, for YouTube, where you can follow. I'm making these videos 100K strong. That's the goal for the year. I want 100,000 strong listeners to the Gospel of Fire. So I'm trying to make a video a week so that you guys can follow along on my journey of how I go about my day, some things that I talk about, some things that I try to work on for myself. And then finally, don't forget my website, EliotMarshall.com, where you can get up to date with everything that has to do with me personally, the Gospel of Fire. You're going to find all about my book release, also called The Gospel of Fire, February 12th. It will be for sale on Amazon that whole week for 99 cents. So all that information at EliotMarshall.com. Thanks again for listening. Thanks to my sponsors, Evo Labs and On It. So that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed the episode.